Hello class, our final section for this chapter, or our final chapter for the entire year, is over surface areas and volumes of spheres. So this is kind of its own chapter in itself because we're not dealing with we're dealing with only circles in this case. So the chord of a sphere is a segment whose endpoints are on a sphere. And a great circle is where the intersection of a sphere whose center is within the plane and the sphere. That is a great circle. Now we have two core concepts, the surface area and the volume. So the surface area of a sphere is 4 times pi r squared, and r is the radius of the sphere. So I'm going to give you two examples on how to find the surface area of both of these circles. So in order to draw these, you're going to draw a circle. No, it does not have to be perfect. And then you'll draw an ellipse on the inside to kind of indicate that it is a sphere. So the radius in this case is going to have an 8. Okay, so 8 inches. So if we want to find the surface area of 4 pi r squared, r is already given to us as 8, so we have 8 squared, and so we have 8 squared is 64 times 4 gives us 256, and we're going to leave the pi on the end. Our other example, so again, if you draw another circle and draw an ellipse to indicate it looks more like a sphere, this is where we're going to label that the circumference is 12 pi. So the circumference is already given to us as 12 pi. So we know that circumference is the same as 2 pi r, and we need r in order to find the surface area of the sphere. So let's find the surface area. So circumference is already 12 pi, and we have 2 pi r, so we're going to divide 2 pi on both sides. So the pi's will cancel out, and I'm left with 12 over 2, so that means 6 is the radius. So 6 is the radius, and so now I can plug this back in to my formula for surface area. So pi r squared, and r we found to be 6. We have 6 squared, which is 36, times 4 gives us 144 pi. So that is a way of finding the surface area given the circumference. So if we go on to the next page, we're going to discuss volume. Our next page is the volume of a sphere. So the volume of a sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed, where r is the radius of the sphere. So we're going to utilize an example. So again, you can draw a circle and draw an ellipse on the inside to indicate it's a sphere, and we are given a radius that is 4.5. So to find the volume, we have 4/3 pi r cubed, not square this time, we have cubed. So 4/3 pi, and then we have 4.5 cubed. And if we were to type this in, we end up with 121.5, and we're going to leave pi on the outside. So that is our example for volume of a sphere. Now we're going to move on to the extra practice. 1 through 4 says find the surface area of the solids. Note we are talking about surface area and we're talking about a sphere. So S is going to be 4 times pi and then r squared. So that's going to be our formula for most of these. So note we also have half circles involved as well as full circles. So for number 1, we have the radius is already given. So we have 4 pi r, which is already 5, and we're going to square it. And so we have 5 squared is 25, times 4 is 100, and we're going to keep pi on the outside. Number 2, we are given the diameter as 9. So remember, 2 times the radius equals the diameter. And so if the diameter is already 9, when you divide by 2, r, the radius, is going to be 4.5 or 4.5. So we can plug this in. So we have 4 pi r squared, and r is 4.5, and we're going to square it. And so 4.5 squared times 4.5 squared is 20.25, and then multiply by this 4, you get 81. So you have 81 pi. Number 3, note we have a half circle. So we're going to take half of the circle at the very end. So note r in this case is going to be a 1. R is 1. So we have S equals 4 pi r, which is 1 squared, and 1 squared is just 1, so we're left with 4 pi. But we need, we have a semi-sphere or half a sphere. So we're going to need to divide by 2. So 4 pi, and then we're going to divide by 2 gives us 2 pi. So 2 pi is the surface area of this sphere. And number 4, we're already given r, so r is already 11.12, so S equals 4 pi, and we have 11.2 squared, and we end up with 250.88 pi, but we need to divide it by 2 because we have half a sphere, so we get 125.44 pi. It's only because we have half a sphere. So on next page, we're going to practice with volume as well as finding missing dimensions in our spheres. So 5 through 8 is find the volume of the sphere. So now we're going to talk about volume of the sphere, and the equation for volume is 4/3 pi r cubed. And so we're going to apply this to all of 5 through 8. So in this case we need r, and r for number 5 is 7.5 because we need to take half of 15 because 15 is the diameter. So volume is 4/3, you got pi, and then 7.5 cubed. So typed into your calculator we get 562.5 pi. Okay, so number 6, we are already given the radius. So volume is 4/3 pi, r is 13, and we have 13 cubed. And so another way to put this into your calculator, make sure you have 13. If you need to do something more than squared, you can always hit the caret right underneath the clear button, and it gives you a cubed. And so you have this giant number, multiply it by 4, because you want the top, and then you can always divide by 3 at the very end, and you end up with 2,929.3, and we're going to say 4, so we can round, or 0.3 pi. 0.3 pi. It is 0.3 repeating, you can just leave it as 0.3. So 0.3 pi. Our next one, number 7, our radius is already given, so you have 4/3 pi, and then you have 3.5 cubed. So our answer is 57.167 pi. We do have one repeating, but you can round up or leave it at 0 if it is a repeating number. And our last one, radius is 5 because the diameter is 10. So we have 4/3 pi, and we have 5 cubed, and you end up with 33.3 pi. So that is 5 through 8. A lot of this is a lot of plug and chug, and let the calculator do the rest for you. Our last 3 questions is finding the indicated measure. So for number 9, we need to find the diameter of a sphere with a surface area of 144 square centimeters. So we are having the surface area. So remember, surface area for a sphere is 4 pi r squared. And we need to find the diameter. So remember, diameter is 2 times the radius. Okay, so this is why you have 2 pi r, and pi times diameter equals the circumference. So we are given the surface area of 144 pi, and then we have 4 pi r squared. So I'm going to divide 4 pi. And so the pi's cancel out. I no longer need that. So 144 divided by 4 gives us 36. And it equals r squared. And remember, if you want to get rid of a squared, then you can use the square root. The square root of 6, or 36, is 6, so that is the radius. However, we want the diameter, so we have to plug it back in. So 2 times 6 gives me the diameter, so the diameter is 12. Our next question, number 10, says find the volume of a sphere with a surface area of 256 pi. So we have the volume of the sphere. So volume, remember, is 4/3 pi r cubed. And then the surface area is given. So we know that one is 4 pi r squared. So but we need r. That's the one thing that these two have in common. So if we solve for r, then we can find volume. So the surface area is given to us as 256 pi equal to 4 pi r squared. We're solving for r. So I'm going to divide 4 pi on both sides. The pi's cancel. So 256 divided by 4 gives us 64 equal to r squared. And then we're going to take the square root of both sides. So the radius is 8. So now I can take 8 and plug it in for volume. So I have 4/3 pi and then 8 cubed. And so then I have a volume of 682.67 pi. Okay. And then onto our final extra practice example. We have find the volume of a sphere with a surface area of 400. So very similar to the previous question. We know the volume is 4/3 pi r cubed, and the surface area is 4 pi r squared. So the surface area is already given to us as 400 pi, and we need to find the radius. So I'm going to divide by 4 pi. So the pi's will cancel, so 400 divided by 4 gives us 100. And we can take the square root, so the radius is 10. So now we can plug this back in. So we have 4/3 pi and then 10 cubed. And we are left with 1,333.3, because it is repeating, pi. And that is our final question for Chapter 12, Section 6, over volumes, surface area and volumes of spheres. Thank you so much for watching my video. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me or come to tutorials 3 to 4 on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Thank you so much.